Everything changes when you have that kind of an experience. I spent 70 days in the hospital and I was intubated twice, had a trachea, had sepsis. I had a whole bunch of. There was spiritual transformative experiences and then NDE, which is near-death experience. Most people don't know that when you are intubated, they tie your hands to the bed. I lost all 5 senses at one time. Above my hospital bed came all of my deceased ancestors, and they start chanting, "Fight, fight, fight." Surrender is the first part of moving forward.
Holly Porter with us today from Retreat R&R. Holly, my tough opening question to you is, when you have a life and death experience, what changes for you in the way you make decisions?
Oh, well, the easy answer that's not so easy is everything. Everything changes when you have that kind of an experience because what you thought was usually isn't. And when your whole world is just shifted and turned right upside down and shook, you have to come back and pick up all the pieces. So that's, for me, everything changed.
So take us through these moments of when this happened to you and tell our audience what happened and kind of what transpired for you, because I think a lot of people have a very difficult time right now and may have a health crisis or a challenge on their own. So tell us your story.
Yeah, I don't know very many people right now that aren't having some kind of a challenge. And right, we just call that life, but it's how we react to it and how we handle things that makes all the difference in what we go through, for me anyway. So I got COVID like so many of us. I wasn't different other than my story from it was a little bit different than most. I hope it's relatable somewhat to some people, but I never thought I would get COVID. I just was a really healthy person. Maybe I didn't take enough precautions. Who knows? Doesn't matter. It happened and this is why it happened. But I spent 70 days in the hospital and I was intubated twice, had a trachea, had sepsis and a couple other life-threatening infections. Any one of those could have taken me out. But the first 3.5 weeks of my time in the hospital, I had many experiences. I didn't know there was anything different than a near-death experience. Later, I found out there was out-of-body experiences, which I had a whole bunch of. There was spiritual transformative experiences, STE, and then NDE, which is near-death experience. And I had all of them and didn't know there was different names. We label them, but they made different. And I could tell in my experiences, I could tell if I was having a bad dream, a lucid dream, a nightmare, bad dream, or out of body, near death, or spiritual. Like they were all very definitive for me.
Yeah, so the first question I have is, were you a spiritual person before, or was this a transformation and a trigger point for you?
Yeah, I would label myself religious spiritual, and now I think that's flipped, more spiritual religion.
And what did you do before all of this happened? So you were a successful business person.
Yeah, so I've had 11 startup companies, not counting little ones I've helped my kids get involved in. And I just got bored easy. It's not that I wouldn't finish things. I just had usually 2 or 3 companies, sometimes 4 at a time between my husband and I. Several have been 20 years or more. So it's not like we just shut shop. We just would get an idea and we'd go with it. And so I was always really busy. We raised 8 children. We have 8 adult children now, almost 19 grandkids. So family was definitely going on during all that and raising a bunch of teenagers in the house. And I think I think God put me in a coma a lot of that time I was in the hospital, so I would sit still to listen to the next steps. I think it was just that I was so busy in the doing that I wasn't sitting in the being, and that's what I needed to learn, and I still get those lessons when I have little setbacks from the long COVID, and this year, after a 10-week setback, I finally realized 3 years later into my setbacks, that's that same message. You're not listening and you're a little off track. I'm gonna, give you a little health setback so you can do that. And I think others can learn from that as well, that sometimes we don't realize why we're going through challenges and things are happening to us. And if we stop back and just use a little bit of discernment, use a little bit of intuition in that, you might figure out it could be a reason that's so easy that you hadn't figured out before.
So let's stay with that here for a second. So, how does somebody figure out that a catastrophe of some sort or a health crisis, or in my case, the fire, that it is not happening to you, but it's happening for you? What's the, because this is not an easy thing. So, what can we tell our audience on how to manage that?
My gut reaction when you ask that is not living in the victim mode. Because I think when it's the poor me and this is happening and why is this happening? And I did that. Why am I laying here almost dying? And my prayers change is like either get me better or get me out of here.
Mhm.
And I think it's just sitting back and listening and then listening to what for you, because everybody's going to be different. We all have intuition, whether you believe that or not. You do. You have that gut instinct. And I think we just need to learn what is that for us? What do we need to listen to? I get a lot of things through music and song. I get a lot of answers through symbolism. And I think now that I know that, I get excited to look for that. I get excited for that to show up because we really can create about anything we want if we just figure out those kinds of things of how those answers are coming to us, how that inspiration is shown to us or for us.
When you were in the hospital and you having now these various different experiences, is that how you looked at it at the time, or was this a gradual transition? And the reason I'm asking is I think people struggle with this in the sense they say, well, I understand that, let's say, divorces happen to other people too, but mine is particularly terrible. Or I understand that people get sick, but
Yeah.
I've been sicker and I've been sicker longer than other people. So, how do you come to terms with the magnitude of what's happening to you? How did
Sure.
you actively look for the other side of this?
Yeah. I think I've always had that in me where I always work at putting myself in someone else's shoes. And that's part of the not being within, being focused outward and not inward. And that experience definitely brought me inward. I was in my head more than I ever needed or wanted to be because that's just where I was. And lots of time to think about things. And when you're laying there on your deathbed, literally, you're thinking thoughts like in the beginning, it was like, is this it for me? What kind of a legacy am I leaving? And was I enough? Am I enough? Did I do enough? Did I serve enough? All those thoughts came. And the longer I was there, the more I think almost victim mentality came and took over because then it was like, this sucks, and then my prayers were more like, why am I suffering? Like what needs to happen here? It was kind of like me and God having a chat saying, get me better, get me out of here. Like I'll go either way. I was never afraid to die ever. So I think it was just those thought process. So I think it's just like the grief steps. I think life and death have steps of their own. I've never heard that before, but there definitely is that process that you have to go through within when you know you're on your deathbed.
Are you saying that you had to surrender in a completely different, on a whole new level? I because as I'm going like through now almost the first year after the fire took everything,
Yeah. I'm
and
sorry.
surrender has been the theme of this.
Yeah.
It
It's
is not
funny you
easy.
say that because my book launches tomorrow and it's called Near Death Shift. And the shift stands for surrender, hope, intuition, faith, and transformation.
Let's just stay on there here. You rendered basically incapacitated,
Yeah.
but your brain is still going, but your body isn't.
My
Give
brain's
me
a mess too. COVID was a brain disease, so it was a mess as well.
take me there and help me understand sort of how you maneuvered this, because it sounds difficult.
Yeah. Interesting you say how I maneuvered it because a lot of times when I was put in a coma, I mean, well, several times they were medically induced, but sometimes they would paralyze you because that your body's so sick. That's the only way they can feel like they can heal it is to just have you totally still. Not that I was really fighting anything. Most people don't know that when you are intubated, they tie your hands to the bed. So I'm literally laying there. I was happy when they put me in a coma because I lost all 5 senses at one time, well, for several times. So my hands are tied to the bed, taste and smell are gone because of COVID. I'm way past legally blind, so without glasses or contacts in, I couldn't see who anyone was unless they were about 8 inches in front of my face, And then I could only see their eyes because they were wearing masks and hat and gowns. So like everybody looked the same. The ventilator took like 90% of my hearing away. So it sounded like Charlie Brown's school teacher. Wah, wah.
Wah, wah, wah. Yeah.
So I mean, think about all 5 senses at once. I mean, your senses are a lot. I mean, to functioning. And so like, it's that kind of like in your head, want to go crazy. I said, I was happy because I wasn't coping. I'd never had anxiety before. It was off the charts. The nurse were asking my sisters because they were there every day with me for 24 hours, one or the other. I could have one person. Husband was home with COVID, couldn't come see me for the first 3.5 weeks when I was the worst. He didn't even come until I had the trach. So he never saw me intubated live. And I think just like surrender, it's like, I'm here. I'm okay. What do I need to do to make this better? And I think that's a big lesson for me. And I would hope for others
Mhm.
is getting to that surrender point before you're ready to break, before you're at your end wits, and before, you have those suicidal thoughts, all that stuff. If we could just realize, there is a higher power out there, whatever that is for you, it's God for me. There's a higher power. So figure out a way to connect to that source and surrender. And I think we would save days and months and years off of what we put ourselves through. Do
What,
you?
where did you take your strength from to trust that this was for you?
I think once I got out of the poor me stage, it came. I think it came naturally. I feel like I've always believed that we create our own surroundings. I think we get the experiences for what we need to learn.
Mhm.
And for me, it's like asking that, not just surrender, but asking that question sooner is, what do I need to learn out of this to get out of it? Like faster, instead of having to keep suffering and experiencing that experience. What do I, is asking the right question. I think asking the right question is valid. That's just like so important.
Now, out of the surrender, you had to make some decisions that you didn't know you had to make or that were coming up for you. So take us through what some of the I'm going to keep this, I'm not keeping this, I'm letting this go.
Yeah.
Take us through some of these decisions and how they came about.
Can I do it by sharing my spiritual transformative experience?
By all means, yes.
I would say that was the defining moment. So just a little bit of history or backstory to it. So I had my sister, one of them there with me, and I had a cousin that lived in a different state to send a text. I wasn't doing well. And they said, I know Holly's not doing well. Would you please read this to her? It's a spiritual experience that I had, but I feel like I wouldn't normally text it, but I think she needs to hear it. Will you please read it to her? And it was basically her praying for my husband and I and our well-being and to get better. And she became surrounded by all of these spirits and asked who they were, and basically was saying the support and love that we had from the other side. She wanted to know that she felt that, she knew it was there, and wanted to know that we had that support from here and there. And so I remember listening, and I remember thinking, oh, that's so sweet. And then they must have induced my coma again because I wasn't doing well. And then I remember being, oh, so angry, so angry. And that was the whole victim thing. And that was what I was just like, that's not fair. She's kind of more of a sister cousin. That's not fair. Why did she get that and I didn't? I'm the one here suffering. Why? Why is she getting that? Like, I'm thinking, I wanted that. I want to see my spirit side of my relatives and past loved ones and whatever. And then my mom had passed away about 20 months before this experience. And she came to me a lot while I was in the hospital. But this particular time she spoke to me. She hadn't spoke to me before, but she'd always come to me on my right side, which a lot of other spiritual healer friends of mine
Mhm.
have verified that of like separately. So it was kind of nice to know that these things were true. And it wasn't just my crazy brain fog making it up. But this particular time she came, and she said, it's not your time and you need to fight. And when she said that, above my hospital bed came all of my deceased ancestors, the favorite aunt, and my brother had died, my sister-in-law died. I had a grandbaby that was a baby, only 2 days old when she passed away just 5 months before. But she was an adult, but I knew it was her. And that was special. So they're all above me, all in white, and they start chanting, fight, fight, fight. And as they're doing that, every time they would say that word, a whole new row of people would come above them, now in street clothes. So I knew they were living. It would, my husband and the kids and friends and siblings. And then it just kept going on and on and on and back as far as I could see, thousands of people. And it was just that moment when I knew, oh, okay, I need to fight. That was like my answer. Like, I just need to fight. I'm going to live. And after that, I had no doubt I was going to die. I didn't think it would probably be an easy comeback because I was so sick, and it wasn't. And to know you're going to live and have that, that experience to share that with you was amazing. And now I know all those thousands of people that I didn't recognize. We were during COVID and we were still pretty shut down in the world at the time. It was fall of 2021. And I had friends all over the world. The only way they knew if I was alive was social media. So my sisters would put posts on updating. I think that those thousands and thousands of people were all those prayer lists I was on, all of those places people had asked for prayers, and to see that kind of support and love. The world is good. There might be a lot of bad things happening, but in the end, people are kind. People are good. I do believe that. And that's really what I want to attract. And for me, that was just such a defining place to be, that when you know something without
Is
a
it,
shadow of a doubt.
this reminds me when my niece had about 6 weeks ago an emergency C-section at 33 weeks, and the baby's been in NICU since, had 4 surgeries.
Wow.
And when she was in surgery, they took the baby halfway out to do surgery while the baby was on the placenta to clean her airways because she had a tumor on her lungs. And I was in deep, deep meditation for 2 hours. And when I prayed and I entered the room, everybody was already there. So my niece already had called everybody. And I saw the grandpa and the grandma and the mother and the father and everybody who had left. And I remember this so vividly. It's a very similar experience. And I almost had this very matter of fact moment where I said, oh, good, they're already all here. It's like, it was completely normal, right? So I completely relate to that.
Yeah.
I do believe that the power of prayer is what brings us these moments of clarity. We just don't
Yeah.
trust it enough. So now with all of this, you eventually get better. I know you had a long, tough journey to get back. How did this affect your strategic business decisions from here on out? Because there's not a chance in the world you're going through all of this and then nothing changes in your business.
Yeah. Well, the challenge was okay, so just before I got sick, in fact, the day I tested that I had COVID, I had been back from my conference for a couple days, and I had put together a pitch deck, and I had this new business idea, Retreat R&R. It wasn't incorporated or anything. It was just like an idea. And I knew it was going to be amazing. I pitched to a group of about 9 people, sicker than a dog, on a virtual, and got through that. I knew it was going to be a great thing to work with them, mostly because they had a billionaire backer. And I thought, this will be awesome. I won't have to worry about the money piece of it. That'll come. And I've got the idea, and it's all going to work out great. And then boom, I end up in the hospital. While I was in there, I was told 2 things in my near-death experience. I was told not to partner with the company that had the billionaire backer, that it wasn't the highest and best thing to do, that it would set me back, but have it my own. And then I was also told to go start a nonprofit, and I was given the name Adventure Bucket Wish, but then I wasn't really given any more instructions than that. So when I came back, that was my calling. I was like, wow, before that, I never felt like I had a true purpose. I didn't really have a legacy piece that I knew I wanted to leave. I mean, my why was my family, sure. And I wanted something bigger and more than that. So within about the 4th month being out of the hospital, long COVID came after that. I was on oxygen for months and months. All the diagnoses started coming in, to a perfectly healthy person, walked in on 0 drugs, walked out on 12. When you get a calling, God will help you. The fact that I was mentally to incorporate 2 companies, get a 501(c)(3) for the nonprofit, get a mission behind it, and do that was like a miracle. No, they weren't making money, but they were established and they were there and I was on my way. Now I had to go raise money. I had never done that before. My companies, I never had debt. It was like, I got to go find money to get this going. I bootstrapped a lot of it. We had one big investor. Anyway, so that we just went from there. It was taking a lot longer, lots of setbacks, still have had setbacks even after 4 years. But when you know that's where you're headed, that you know that's what you're supposed to do, you do it. And yeah, it's coming. It will happen. I mean, I have no doubt Retreat R&R, it has a lot of divisions to it, and I can't do all of them at once, obviously. But I mean, I see it being a $1 billion company in a $360 billion industry as of 2032 from
So take us through the retreat. So the idea, what is the big idea?
Yeah. So the original idea, it's evolved a lot in the last 4 years, but the original idea was to create a platform. I was going to do a retreat in Ireland, COVID year, and it got canceled because everything got shut down. But when I was looking for where do I want to have this retreat, I noticed that there wasn't anywhere like an Airbnb, but for venues, for retreats. So it gave me the idea. It's a booking and hosting site for retreat leaders, for venues to list their properties. There's a networking part of it, of course, to work with other retreat leaders. And then it evolved into, we have a podcast called All Things Retreat. It evolved into that. And then there's a magazine that will be, there's a travel agency that will be, those aren't all created yet. And then I've been a real estate broker for 20 years. So always in phase 2, we were going to help broker buy and sell luxury retreat properties. So that's another piece of it. And so there's like so many things and so many moving parts to it all the time. But yeah, that's the whole concept. And still to this day, there's not a lot that really exists that can help solve that problem.
No, and as somebody who goes to retreats and goes to spiritual experiences and things like that, it's expensive to build a retreat. And then you have staff and you can't exactly lay off the staff in between and then bring it back on a month later for the next retreat. They have to be on staff and they have to be hired the entire time. Otherwise, you're losing all these people that you give them the experience. So it's expensive to do that.
Right.
And how do you fill these things? Because then you have to do marketing and you have to go to kind of all these places. And then if you're looking for a retreat, where would you go and find one? So
yeah,
it is not easy. I love this idea of you doing this. And I will put you in touch with some people that I know that are in this space because I do think that it is important. So now, as we're wrapping this episode, what do you want other people that are having a hard time right now? Maybe not, let's hope not a near-death experience.
No, I always say you don't have to have a near-death experience to experience transformation. And that's the T in my SHIFT acronym. Transformation can happen to anybody at any time, good or bad. But let's just focus on good and the what ifs and the possibilities. And I think just helping, like figuring out, going back to that, what we talked about in the beginning about surrendering, I think that needs to be the first step. I'm grateful that it ended up working out in my first letter of my acronym because surrender is the first part of moving forward, realizing there's a higher power, there's people out there to help you. And nobody gets there alone. I look at any successful person, if they have any humility, they will let you know they did not figure all that out by themselves. They have mentors, they have leaders, they have coaches, they have consultants. It's just when you want to be successful, surrender first. Be humble enough to just know, where is my genius? Where does my expertise lie? That's what I'm going to focus on. And all the other pieces, I'm going to get people to help me. And they will, like they'll show up. I believe that.
Well, I certainly feel very inspired. Your distance between the event and where you are today is greater than my distance between my event and where I am today. And I think that, especially for people that are going through these life-changing moments, and there's so many people that are having these, as you call them, transformational moments.
Yeah.
There is the grief. There is the letting go of this old version. for many reasons because it wasn't yours to have in the
Yeah.
first place, or it was time for you to let it go. And there's always sadness that comes with it.
Yeah.
My final question really that is this, maybe some advice when somebody's really struggling with holding on to the event and not seeing the other side of it. Maybe we can give them one piece to take away.
Yeah. I think it's just the fear we have and the fear of the what ifs and the unknowns maybe for us. But one message that I came back with from my near death experience was simple words: love them where they're at. And that shifted everything for me because we all know about unconditional love. We all know, hopefully, what that feels like. And if you don't, create that. Create it first within, because it's just the whole putting your oxygen mask on you first before you can give to others. You've got to save yourself. Just take that judgment away from when we look at other people. Love yourself where you're at first, and then love others where they're at unconditionally, no matter what. It doesn't mean you have to have them in your life every day if they're causing harm or damage, but just know that it's not our place to judge.
I love that. I love that so much. Love them where they're at. Just as soon as they
Take
I
the
love
judgment
that.
out.
Yeah, just take the judgment out. I think that we are so much happier. So tell us where our audience can find you, get the book, and learn about your retreat R&R.
Yeah, thank you. I love that. I'm on all social media handles under Holly Porter, and you can go to neardeathshift.com, and that is where the book is, where you can get a live copy or you can get an Amazon copy. Either way, I have those options there, but that's probably where I'd send you. All my socials are on there, and that's probably a good place to go.
And if somebody wants to book an RB a retreat and looking for a place or has one, where do they go?
If you already have a tribe of people and you want to do retreats, we have a concierge service. So email holly@hollyporter.com if you just want to chat and figure out some next steps. Yeah, send me a message.
Good.
Love to
Okay.
chat. Thank you.
Sounds wonderful. All right, Holly. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It was helpful for me to connect with you and have you share our experiences with our audience. So thank you so much for being
Thank you
here.
for having me.
And that is it for us for today. Let's hope you don't have to have a near-death experience to understand that we are in transformational times. Please share this episode with somebody who you think can benefit from it. And until next time, and goodbye. That's it for this episode of the Business Growth Architect Show, Founders of the Future. If you're done playing small and ready to build the future on your terms, subscribe, share, and help us reach more trailblazers like you. And if you're serious about creating, growing, and scaling a business that's aligned with who you are, schedule your uncovery session at uncoverysession.com. Lead with vision. Move with purpose. Create your future.